Welcome to Section 2 of the Mass Casualty Crimes Team webinar series. My name is Paige Almendinger, and I'm here with Maggie McHale, and we're with the Critical Incident Unit with the Victim Services Division of the San Francisco District Attorney's Office. This is Section 2 of 3 for the Mass Casualty Crimes Team webinar series. This section will give an overview of the incident command system used by disaster responders. It will provide an understanding of how the San Francisco Victim Services Mass Casualty Crimes Team is activated, and will explore how mutual aid is provided and requested. What is the incident command system and why do we care? For our team to effectively respond to mass casualty crime incidents, it's important for advocates to have a basic understanding of the language, policies, and protocols that disaster response agencies from across the country practice and utilize. ICS is a standardized, on-scene emergency management structure. It is designed to be scalable for both small and large incidents. ICS helps organize and streamline facilities, equipment, personnel, procedures, and communication in the aftermath of a disaster. It's a hierarchical system based on job function, not on the responder's day-to-day job duties. This means that in the event of a disaster, you may be reporting to people that you don't normally report to. Everyone, whether you're working as an advocate on scene, in the Emergency Operations Center, or leading the on-scene efforts, has someone that they are funneling information and reporting to.
So how does ICS look? Let's imagine that you are an advocate who has been deployed to a mass casualty crime incident. You walk into the response knowing you will be working with the folks affected by the mass casualty crime, but you may not be sure in which ways exactly. On scene, there will be a team lead from our organization, the Victim Services Division. As an advocate responding, you will report to the team lead. The team lead is responsible for assigning job duties, ensuring advocates take breaks, maintaining the schedule of advocates, and bringing any problems that arise on scene up the chain of command.
It's important to know that many of the other agencies respond to both natural and person-made disasters. But because of the nature of our work with the Victim Services Division, we only respond to mass casualty crime incidents. Many of these agencies play different functions depending on the type of disaster. So the function that they play in response to a mass casualty crime may look different than the role that they play in the response to a fire. Keep in mind that many of these agencies respond to disasters as a main component of their work. So you're walking into a system that has already been established. On-scene responders for mass casualty crime incidents in San Francisco include the Salvation Army, the American Red Cross, the Department of Public Health's Crisis Response Team, and the Human Services Agency. Other agencies may show up depending on the type of incident. When you arrive on scene, a briefing will be provided that will detail the job roles of each agency for that specific incident. Team leads will be identified for each of the responding agencies. The team leads for each agency will funnel the information provided from their team members to the site manager. The site manager may change based on the incident and which agency has taken the lead on the incident response. The site manager is responsible for coordinating all of the agencies that have responded on scene and collecting information to funnel up to the Emergency Operations Center. These briefings are essential for leads to communicate any gaps in resources that they're experiencing on the ground.
The Emergency Operations Center mirrors the on-scene response. Representatives from each of the agencies on scene are seated at the Emergency Operations Center. More specifically, they're sitting at the Emergency Support Function 6 Mass Care and Shelter table. The Emergency Support Function 6, referred to as ESF 6, coordinates mass care, emergency assistance, housing, and human services. Partners at this table in San Francisco include the American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the Human Services Agency, and the Department of Public Health. The representatives in the EOC tend to be department heads or a representative with the authority to make decisions about resource allocation from their agencies. Those with the authority to make final decisions must be seated in the EOC so that information funneled from the ground to the EOC can be acted on quickly and decisively. The decisions made in the EOC will be funneled back down through the same reporting structure to inform the on-scene responders. The Human Services Agency acts as the lead in San Francisco. Our representative in the EOC is our chief, our deputy chief, or a designated person who can make these kinds of important decisions. The Department of Emergency Management is the holder of the city and county plans for disaster response. They are the ones that are ensuring that all essential responding agencies understand their role in the response and coordinate appropriately.
Those at the Emergency Operations Center have a critical function to play in ensuring that the needs are met on scene. The role of the EOC is to plan for the future of what the response may look like. This includes, but is not limited to, financial resources, additional responders that need to be deployed, preparing for additional operational periods, and information about how to respond to media requests. In summary, when you arrive on scene as an advocate, know that the person that you're reporting to is responsible for funneling information up the chain. This person may not be someone you're used to reporting to, but because of the nature of the incident, the knowledge structure, and ICS, it's important to follow the hierarchy so that the information is transmitted and documented smoothly and timely in these responses. A further explanation of ICS will be provided through the Mass Casualty Crimes Team Required Training, FEMA ICS 100 course, which is online and free of charge.
An important tenet of ICS is establishing a common language. Disaster responders have their own language and acronyms to communicate effectively through the chain of command. Here are some important terms to remember. The first type of evacuation center our office will respond to is a Family Resource Center, also referred to as an FRC. A Family Resource Center is set up in the immediate aftermath of a mass casualty crime incident. It is a secure facility in a centralized location. The Family Resource Center provides information about missing, unaccounted for persons or the deceased and helps reunite victims with their loved ones. Resource centers help displaced survivors, including children, to reestablish contact with their family and friends. This center may be replaced by a Family Assistance Center if victims of the crime have unmet needs. A Family Assistance Center, also known as an FAC, may be located where the Family Resource Center had already been established, or will be moved to a different location. Some incident responses may not require the setup of a Family Resource Center and may go straight to the Family Assistance Center, depending on the needs of the victims affected by the crime. The FAC provides victims, witnesses, and families of victims a centralized location to receive information about resources available, crisis mental health, and spiritual services. These centers will house different agencies providing resources depending on the crime incident and the needs of those affected by the crime.
The number one thing to remember about our response to mass casualty crime is that our office will never self-deploy. Our office will wait to be deployed by one of the agencies that is able to deploy us. Those include the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management, the San Francisco International Airport, the Department of Public Health, the Human Services Agency, and the San Francisco Unified School District. Our department is listed as a responding resource to mass casualty crime incidents in these agencies' response plans. Our agency will not respond to natural disasters. However, it's important to know that as a city worker, you may be called in as a disaster worker. This process should have been covered through your initial onboarding with the city. The Chief and Deputy Chief of the Victim Services Division will be sent an alert after a mass casualty crime incident occurs. This alert will come from one of our deploying agencies and will give limited details of the incident. With this alert, our Chief or Deputy Chief will communicate with the deploying agency regarding the number of advocates needed, where the incident occurred, and what resources are expected to be needed. The chief or the deputy chief will notify the appropriate advocates on the mass casualty crimes team through Regroup. Regroup is a software that we use to communicate with one another in the event that we're deployed after a mass casualty crime incident. They will ask the advocates for their availability to respond. Once they have received the advocates' availabilities, they will confirm deployment times and give further information to those who will be responding. Just like as a team we do not self-deploy, advocates should not assume that they will be deploying until they have been contacted through Regroup. Each incident will require different skills, whether that be language capacity, specializations, or literal proximity to the incident. The executive team will reach out to the advocates, but the advocates should not preemptively reach out to the person coordinating the response for our unit. This allows the coordinator to stay organized and track who is available and when. If you become aware of a local mass casualty crime incident and you're on the mass casualty crimes team, follow the checklist provided in SharePoint to prepare for your activation. If there are any reasons that you may not be able to deploy or any limitations to your ability to deploy, please tell the coordinator who is deploying you. For example, if you cannot complete a full 8-hour deployment, but you can assist for up to 4 hours, please communicate this information to the person coordinating the response for our office. It will be useful as they coordinate for the initial response as well as second deployments if the incident lasts longer than an 8-hour period.
The chief and deputy chief will be requesting additional information from the deploying agency to better select the appropriate advocates with specific skill sets and language capacity to send for the response. As a member of the critical incident team, it does not mean that you will be asked to respond to every mass casualty crime incident in the Bay Area. At the moment of activation, our division may be unsure of how long the response will be. For instance, if it is an incident that has affected many people, the response may be several days long. In that case, we must ensure that we have enough advocates to send out to the scene for multiple operational periods, so you may be held back from the initial deployment and placed on second deployment standby. When the chief and deputy chief are requesting advocates' availabilities, they will be checking for multiple operational period availabilities. This is to avoid overworking our staff and to provide a continuum of care to the victims affected by this crime. The District Attorney's Bureau of Investigations, DAI, assists our team when responding to mass casualty crime incidents. Anytime you are deployed, we will have an established meetup location for advocates and DAI. DAI will assist our team to safely and easily pass the perimeters set around the Family Resource Centers or Family Assistance Centers. The team will travel together to the incident to ensure safety of advocates as well as to provide a briefing of job roles and functions on scene.
In 2015, a working group of the victim witness programs in the 9 Bay Area counties formed in order to develop plans for how our offices would collaborate in a response to a mass casualty crime in the Bay Area. This group meets quarterly to promote collaboration, training, and a coordinated response to assist victims of mass casualty crime in the Bay Area. Counties participating in this collaboration include San Francisco, Marin, Sonoma, Napa, Solano, Contra Costa, Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo. In April of 2018, it was announced that 7 of the 9 Bay Area counties had signed on to a Memorandum of Understanding. This MOU allows any participating county that's impacted by a mass casualty crime event to request shared resources and personnel from the surrounding counties. You may be activated as a part of the mass casualty crimes team to respond to another county in the Bay Area. Mutual aid deployment may involve responding on scene, but it may also be covering the affected county's back office duties while their advocates respond on scene. When responding as mutual aid, advocates from San Francisco will report to the Victim Services team lead from the affected county. There, they will receive their job roles. The mutual aid deployment policy can be accessed in SharePoint.
Institutions such as the Unified School District, San Francisco International Airport, and San Francisco State University have their own internal response plans to mass casualty crime. For these institutions with previously identified response plans, our team will respond as a supporting agency. Rather than acting as a coordinating body on scene, our team will provide resources to the victims, witnesses, and families affected by the incident and follow the instructions of the organizing body.
Thank you for completing Section 2 of the Mass Casualty Crimes Team webinar series. Please remember to complete the post-test and submit it to your supervisor.